All right, folks, another story to tell you about in Washington, D.C. This Joe Biden. What in the world is this guy doing? He has now commuted the sentences of just about every single federal death row inmate, except for a few of them. I'll tell you those in a second. I want you to look at these two characters. This is Ricardo Sanchez and Daniel Troya. They both killed a family of 4 in West Palm Beach, Florida. They stole the family's car and left them for dead. Their story, their case, their crimes, commuted. They will spend life in prison without the possibility of parole, but death sentence off the table now. How about this guy? This is Jorge Torres. He sexually assaulted and stabbed 2 girls, ages 8 and 9. They were riding bikes in their neighborhood. No relation to this guy. 4 years later, he sneaks into a naval barracks and strangles naval officer Amanda Snell. Jorge Torres, his sentence of death commuted to life without the possibility of parole. But Joe Biden, if he's so against the death penalty, he allowed the death penalty to stand for 3 people. Dylan Roof, the shooter of the Emmanuel Church, Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, remember him from the Boston bombing, and Robert Bowers, who was the shooter in the Tree of Life synagogue massacre. Now, if you don't believe in the death penalty, why do you leave it in place for some and not for others? And what are we telling the families of all of those victims that died at the hands of these freaking animals? The death penalty should be on table for all of them. But what does this say about him picking and choosing the death penalty for some and not others? I want to bring in now the president of the Crime Prevention Research Center, former senior advisor for research and statistics at the Justice Department Office of Justice Programs. Dr. John Lott is with us. John, it is good to see you. Welcome back.
Oh, Happy New Year. Thanks for having me on.
You too, John. So what's going on here? Why does he spare the lives of complete animals and then let 3 other animals go to the go to death?
You're right. There's no consistency here. Some of the people that he's commuted the sentences for have been mass murderers. They've tortured their victims. They've had no remorse. They've killed children. They've done some of the most heinous and brutal crimes that you can think of. You have people that have kidnapped and ransomed people and then killed the people when the ransom was done. So, as you say, if you oppose the death penalty, then do it across the board. It's really hard to think of any logical, consistent reason for the differences that are there. But here's the thing. What you have to understand is that these types of actions will actually lead to more deaths. You mentioned Dylan Roof, for example. He pled guilty to avoid a trial so that he could avoid the death penalty. He would rather be in life in prison than having to face a death penalty. You have Nicholas Cruz for the Florida school shooting. He did the same type of thing. When you have a number of cases where these mass murderers would rather face life in prison than the death penalty. And so that gives you some notion of the deterrence effect there. There's a lot of empirical work that indicates for each person that we execute, you save at least 8 lives for people because you deter criminals from committing these crimes. And so not only is there inconsistency in how he applies this, but he's also making it so that more likely we're going to have violent crimes in the future.
So when you look at this, John, you're so good at statistics. Anecdotally, or my own opinion would be, if I'm a shooter and it's a crime of passion, or I'm angry, I'm a drug dealer, and I shoot up the place, are they really thinking about, oh, no, the ramifications may be the death penalty? I would say no, but, I always look at the numbers. What I say may not be what's reality. What do the numbers tell me? And that's the best place to look in all of this.
Yeah, look, surely there can be some people that just in the heat of the moment, they don't think about what they're doing. You're not going to say that we're going to get rid of all murders, no matter what the penalties are going to be there. But can we deter some murders there? Can we get some murderers to think twice before they go and engage in the crime? You look at these mass public shooters that we have. These guys, a lot of planning beforehand. They consciously think about things on how to do it. Why do they pick gun-free zones? They pick gun-free zones because they want to go and kill a lot of people. And they know that if they go to a place where the victims are going to be able to defend themselves, they're not going to be able to go and kill as many people as they would have otherwise. So they're putting a lot of forethought into this. It's not just an emotional thing where just, in a split-second decision without them thinking about it. So you may not stop all these crimes, but if you can stop some of them, you save some lives. Isn't that worth it?
John, have you looked into any statistics about the rate of the wrongly accused being put to death? Because that's one of the arguments that those who don't support the death penalty will use not to go there.
Yeah, sure. We've looked at it. We have data for about 40-year period of time where we've had DNA evidence that's been involved. The Innocence Project claims that 34 of the basically 12,000 people that we had DNA evidence for were wrongly accused and convicted of murder. Only 18 of those were sentenced to death. And none of those 18 were executed before they were exonerated. They can't point to cases, with the hundreds of thousands of murders that you're talking about, millions of murders over many decades, where you had somebody who was innocent executed. And so, is it possible? Yeah. But the rate, and it's not just for murders that we're talking about the very low rate, just in general. DNA evidence has overturned just a tiny fraction of 1% of the cases.
I'm so glad I asked you that question, because that's not a story you're getting on the mainstream media anywhere, that no one has been wrongly put to death. At least they haven't been able to prove that. Yet you would think with all the publicity that would be all over the place, but apparently it's not. Real quick, Dr. Lott, I'll give you the last word here.
Well, the other issue that's often brought up for these cases is that somehow blacks are disproportionately executed. And that's simply not the case. If you look at murders as, relative to their share of the population, yes, they're overrepresented. You're having like 45% to 50% of the murders are committed by blacks, even though they make about 13% of the population. But if you look at executions, almost 2/3 of the people that have been executed are whites. So if anything, whites are disproportionately executed relative to their share of the population compared to blacks.
Well, I'll tell you, your statistics are a lot better way to look at things than the emotion of those on the other side of these arguments. And I appreciate it. It's why I always like having you coming on from the Crime Prevention Research Center, Dr. John Lott. Thank you, and Happy New Year to you, my friend.
Happy New Year. Yeah, people have to put these things in terms of things like rates and adjust for shares of population. But thank you.
Yep, you got it.